All right, so what you are going to do this week is basically utilize Adobe Dimension in order to apply your finalized rebrand logo. Okay, first thing you need to do is make sure that out of Photoshop, wherever you make it, that you export out the logo itself. Try to make it as tight as possible, such as you see here. Make sure obviously there's transparency. I had some other effects and stuff, and I had to turn those off, and I turned off the other layers from the other one that I had showed you before. Um, Something like this. If you have other elements that you also want to put in there, you can include those as well. But same thing, you want to make sure that you, like if you have text like that's separate or you want to be able to space it out inside of Dimension, you can include it all as one big image and make sure it has transparency, or you can have multiple, what they call decals inside of there. But just make sure you export out here as a PNG. So if you have it like this, you're just going to go File, export, and then just export as, and then just make sure it's a PNG format. And I think all the default settings are fine. You're just going to export it out. All right. If you're using Illustrator, or if you maybe did it in InDesign, same thing. So just make sure you export it out as a PNG. It can't be a JPEG because JPEGs don't have that transparency. Okay. So once you've done that and you make sure you have all of your assets, what you want to do is open up Dimension. Now they have these little videos, and you can watch these little demonstrations. There's also a bunch of them on YouTube. It's actually comparatively to other programs you have used, this is much simpler. Okay, if you have any experience with 3D, it's even simpler yet because it's basically like automated 3D stuff. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna create new, and it's gonna give you just basically a blank scene that you're seeing here. Just real quickly, you're going to see there aren't really that many options. So there's like import and there's export, although we aren't really going to use that at all. But you know, file, save, all that other stuff, like duplicate, copy, and paste. Yeah, there's not really all that much in here. Object, really, all you're going to do is import stuff. Image, most of this isn't really even going to be all that necessary. Okay. On the left here are tool settings, but you're going to see that most of these you don't need either. So for instance, if I have an object here, right? So we have this text object. See how it has these handles here that we're going to use to moving it around? That is all of these subtools. You don't need those, okay? The wand tool you're not going to use. The eyedropper you also don't honestly really need. These are for navigation, which again you don't need because this you're just going to use your mouse. So if you hold the middle mouse button and click, that's just to pan around. Right mouse button is to rotate the camera, and you just use your scrolly wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, if you're using, yeah, well, just that you're gonna need a mouse in order to do this. You can use these as well if that makes it easier for you, but it's going to be a little bit cumbersome to do that. All right, so just be aware that might be a little bit more difficult. Okay, so that's what basically the tools are. Yeah, you don't really want to zoom in because that's actually just zooming into the image. So don't use that. And the same thing here with the pan, well, which we're not zoomed in, so it's not panning. But so generally speaking, just leave it on this guy. You're not going to need any of these tool settings. Okay. The next thing you're going to see on the left here are basically, they're going to start you off with, this is like your assets panel. Okay. They're going to start you off with these starter assets. And if you look, you can see if we're on, they have these categories. Okay. If you're on the one away to the left, it has all these pre-made models. Okay. And there's more than this, but this is just what they have as the starter assets that you can work with. They have pre-made materials. So you have an object here and you can basically just apply that material. That one's not very fancy. Let me do something you can see better. You can apply the materials, and then they'll have those materials on them. Basically, material is just like you would think of anything else, right? You can have a ball that's made out of rubber. It looks a certain way. You can have a ball that's made out of metal, right? And it looks a certain way. Same basic idea. So just like those are materials, 3D materials basically act in the same way. There's lighting here, so there's different kinds of lighting. You're not going to see much of a difference here because there's not all that. But basically, you just click on them, and they will show you different setups of lights. We'll get in this a little bit later. And then the last one's basically for background images, as well as graphics, decals that you'd want to place on top of that, okay? But these are all the ones that are just already in here by default, okay? I'll show you how to bring your own in and things like that, or look up more because you're probably going to want to, because it's not a good idea to use the defaults just because everybody is. Then on the right is sort of like a properties panel or an outliner. More or less gives you all the stuff that's currently in your scene, okay? So If you look at the environment, you can change the background right here, which is what these are here. That will allow you to, you can just click on them and then you can change the color in general, right? Or you can just drag this into there, and you don't actually even have to drag it in there. I think if you just, I don't know, maybe you just click on it, but you can click and drag it. Either way, it will bring that in there for you, which is pretty nice. You can turn that off as well, but that's what the so this will give you information about that. The environmental light. So currently, if you look, see how, not here, sorry. There's all these different lightings. This is where they get stored to here. So see, as I click them, they change. It's showing you the different ones. All right, and I'll cover that in a little bit later too. And then the camera settings. And this, in this case, the only object we haven't seen right now is currently this text setting. Okay. Okay. Good. So what I want to do is just, I'm going to quickly show you one thing first, and then I'll kind of work on mine, just because it might be useful to some of you, although most of you probably not. Just in the future, if you should want to do this or something you want to explore, you could bring in your own assets, and you will need to, but you can actually even bring in your own models. I'm not assuming any of you guys are going to do your own models, and I'm expecting you not to. But if you, for some reason, feel whatever, go ahead. Although, quite honestly, they're probably not going to be as nice as these anyway. So, but in the future, if you do want to, you can. So I'm just going to show you. If I want to bring in my own models, or actually bring in any assets, you can click here, and you can import your content. There's other ways of importing content as well, like through the library and such. The same thing as doing file import, okay? But so I'll hit the little plus, and I'm just going to go to import my content. Then you have to say the type of content you want to import. Notice it's those categories I just showed you a second ago. I'll say 3D model. I'm just going to go right to my desktop, and then I have the still life model, so I'll open that up, and then you will see my model's kind of large because this was actually something I made for another class. And actually, if you look, let me turn the background off because I don't find it very useful at the moment. You see this down here? This is world space, just so you understand. So if you see this Z, that's depth. X is side to side, and then Y is up and down. Okay. My model apparently is facing backwards, so I'm just going to rotate. Actually, I can probably grab the whole models in general. I'm going to grab this whole group, and I'm just going to rotate it. I'll hold Shift so it's, oh, it doesn't snap. Anyways, I'm going to rotate it around so that it's more 180. There we go. But you can bring in your own models if that's something that you would want to do. So like I said, this is just some still life I had made for another class. And then subsequently, you can go through and you can apply all these like different materials. Give that material, and then let's see, let's do whatever this thing is, and let me see, you know, you can apply all the different materials and stuff, and it's pretty neat. Okay. And inside of your stuff, and you'll see we can do this later, but inside the stuff, all of the models are basically, you can see them here, okay? Because this scene I brought in was brought in as a folder, but notice that I didn't name these, so if you do decide to bring your models in, make sure you name them all nicely and have it organized, because otherwise it'll be a big pain. But you can see, right, it already looks kind of nice. And if you hit this little preview button, it will look even nicer. It'll actually start to render it before your very eyes. Because some things like reflections or glass are not really, they're very difficult to render in real time. So, but you get kind of an idea here. All right, so yeah, that was cool. I'm just going to turn that back off. But even the preview here, I think looks pretty decent. It's actually pretty close to what the final render quality. So I think that's actually done pretty well. I'm just going to delete this guy. I really don't need him anymore. All right. So if you remember, what I was using was Pepsi. So I'm going to do a Pepsi can and apply my logo to it. And then render out the results and all of that. Okay. So what I need to do is go to the models here, and they actually have a can. I think this one have water and one not. Let me see. Oh, because I'm all zoomed out. So I'm going to F to frame. Okay, yeah. So one has water and one does not. I like the water one better. So if you click on them, they'll just appear at what we call origin, which is the center of the universe right here. See, it's taking a bit longer because the water is actually considerably, it's quite a bit larger. Or you could just click and drag it across, and you can see it's going to be automatically stuck to the plane. Okay, and you can drag multiple objects in if you need to. So if you want to try and like, If you want to do a couple of them, like, oh, they're going to do this, and they're also going to do these like bags, and then you can be like, oh, I'm just gonna rotate this around, and you know they're selling coffee beans now or something. You can include multiple objects as you so desire. Now, if what you need is not up here, you do have some other options. You can import them. Okay, so if you look right now, it says starter assets, and then you can also go to libraries. You do that. So we're gonna do is hit plus, and you can see CC libraries, import your content, or you can use Adobe Stock. So if you click on Adobe Stock, click on Free Collection, it's going to pop open, and then it's going to show you a bunch of free stuff. Okay. Now, obviously, this is all random stuff, so it's probably not even what you need. So let's just say you need to do a can, right? So we'll look up can. So there's a can. That's not super helpful. Let's see if there's like soup. So for like a tin can, soup. Oh, these are images. Let's see, glass. So you may or may not find what you need. You might have to find something that's similar. You can also, if you, let me see, where is the, no, that's not what I was hoping for. Is that the settings? No, there's an option. I'm not seeing the advanced panel. But anyway, you could grab one of these and then you can download it, and it will be included in your options. So I'll download this one. You might have to sign in as well. Make sure you sign in. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that one. It's going to, there you go. And it says license for free. That's great. And I'm just going to save to library. That's actually easier. It will download as a zip folder, but that's a little bit more annoying to because then you have to download it and unzip it and then import it. Instead, if you just click save to library, this needs to be licensed, licensed for free. Okay, I'm not gonna see it's automatically downloading it, and I'm just gonna save to library. Come on, did it do it? Oh, it did save it. Okay, so it'll save to the library, and now if I go back to Dimension, I can switch to libraries, and then any libraries you've made, if you've made ones for different projects and such, it can be in there. So like I made one for Paco Comic, it will probably be in my libraries. I accidentally downloaded it twice, so let's crap, that's something I want to do. Excellent, undo. I don't want to just get rid of you. Let's see, can I trash it that way? Let's see, where are you? Delete. There we go. So then I'll just put this glass next to it. So I'm going to click on the glass. It should pop open here, hopefully. There it goes. Okay. Now, when you do place an object in there, these arrows are how you move them. Okay. So use the arrows to move them in space. The rotate are the circles here. So if you need to rotate it, that doesn't really show much, but if you need to rotate it, that's how you would rotate it. And then the squares are scale. Okay. So if you need to scale it in all things, if you hold Shift and drag and click and drag, it'll scale all of them, which is a little confusing because in other 3D programs, it's usually in the center. This one, that's not how they do it. Also be aware that the object itself, you can actually adjust it manually over here. So if I want to rotate it, let's put this back to 0. I want to rotate it exactly 90 degrees on, let's say, Z. I could type in 90 and it'll rotate 90 degrees on Z. Okay. So you can type in the numbers as well. It's pretty easy. Also, if for some reason you move it over or whatever, you can click on this and that'll actually push it back down to the ground, which is kind of handy. So if you're trying to get it to do that, you can also change where the pivot is if for some reason you need that as well. Generally just leave it on the bottom. That makes the most sense to me. So yeah, so we have some objects. I'm just gonna put this, let's see, where should we put this? We'll put this over here. The idea I'm thinking is maybe it's like, oh, I'm making it more sophisticated because it's, looking good here. Try to have Z pointing towards you. That's kind of what you want. Now you can kind of, go from this direction or this direction, whatever, but just make sure it's pointing forward because that's supposed to be the facing side. All right, so I think that's good enough for an intro to it. And the next one we'll kind of carry on because I've got my models in there now. And the next one I'll do is get the background image and adjust some other things.